Hello there, my name is James Roach. I'm the owner and operator of Triple Sticks Landscaping. Today I want to share with you my story and where I got my business to where it is today. YouTube is a great tool. We've started using it recently over the last year, but it doesn't really show the struggle, the heartache, or how much work it was to get here, and how much work it still is to continue to thrive and push forward and be better at what we do. I want to share those hardships. I want to talk to you. I want to tell you that if you're out there and you started your own business, it is the hardest, most rewarding, but most toll-taking thing you can ever take on in your life. I haven't been perfect. I've worked hours and hours of my life away. I want to share my experiences with you so you can learn, so you can grow, so you may not have to take the hardships that I did. My name is James, and this is my story. So my story starts a long time ago. It really goes back to growing up. My father was a general contractor and the hardest working man I've ever known in my life. He can still outwork me to this day, I know. And he'd look me dead in the eye and tell me, son, sometimes you just gotta work hard to get where you need to be. And you know what? Sometimes you don't make a lot of money by doing it. Sometimes it just provides for your family, but that's just the way it is. I'm proud of my dad for instilling that work ethic in me as a kid, and even to this day. Thank you, Dad. You know, I didn't have it easy though, because in school was not my thing, you know. I didn't know it till a few years ago, but I'm extremely dyslexic, and things that are easy for some people are extremely hard. I can't read super well. I do now these days. I do a lot better now that I know how to deal with it. That's a different story for another time, and I would love to share it if you want to listen. But growing up, it was hard. You know, I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't do math like everybody else, and people were too afraid to label me as something, so they just labeled me as special. And special is not a good thing to be labeled. You might as well call me retarded, because everybody else looked at me differently. I mean, I had friends and good friends that you didn't see that way. But I had teachers and people tell me that if I couldn't do well in school, I would never be anywhere in life. And, you know, that I couldn't have been more wrong. But it damaged me in a way that actually affected me in my life, even to this day. And I'm working to overcome that. All right, so with the dyslexia, I decided to, as I got through high school and whatnot, I really only made it through about the 10th grade year, but it took me until I was 18 years old. And so with all the hardships I had in school, I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I still had way too much school, and I'd be way too old. So when I was 18 years old, I dropped out of high school, and my father was like, had this great talk with me. He's like, this is awesome. You decided what you want to do, but I don't want you to just sit here. So you're either going to go to work with me, or you can go find a job somewhere else. And you're not just going to sit around here and mope or feel sorry for yourself or whatever. So that was probably the best thing my dad could ever done. Not only has he always instilled work ethic like that in me, but he's always instilled making money, saving money, and trying to be wise with your money. And that even started then. He didn't want me to spend a lot of my money just sit in his house. So he encouraged me also to get my GED, and when I was 19, I went and got that. I've never needed it, but I do have it. So through those years 18 to 24, I worked a lot of jobs. I worked a lot of landscaping and construction and just a lot of manual labor jobs. And a lot of people that we were around kind of looked down on that as kind of the thing that you do if you can't succeed in life. It was a uneducated job, but in reality, they couldn't be any more wrong. You have to love your work. You have to love and take pride every day in the work if you're going to work hard like this. And I don't think a lot of people saw that before. Now, in all the trades that I did in construction and landscaping, what I always was determined to do was be the best that I could be. And this really helped me out, even to this day. Like, I'm not afraid to try something at least once. And if it's not a skill I'm good at, I'm not going to do it. But the skills that I do pick up by doing that, I will strive to be as good at it as I can be. And this led to me getting a really cool job when I was 21 years old. And I traveled around the world as an ADA contractor on cruise ships. And that's a American Disability Association. And so what we did is we went in and put everything up to code, built ramps, put in new grab bars, put in lifts for pools, all that kind of stuff. And I was able to perform on the level of guys that have been doing it for a long time. At 21 years old, I was competing with guys that were 50 years old and had been in a long time. So it really challenged me and pushed me to be better at what I did. And everybody saw that, but also gave me a lot of crap for it. And but they all looked at me at the end of the day and told me that I had a drive and a work ethic better than most people's. And it was really encouraging and helped push me to even be better than that. This opportunity was really cool, and I got to travel the world a little bit and make a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money, I was 21 years old. It made $35 an hour. Now, around here, that's really good. And it allowed me to buy my first home, and it allowed me to put a lot of savings in my bank. And now I had already learned how to save a lot of money. And when I was 20, I think it was when I was 22, after working that job for a while, and the money I'd saved, I'd put half the money down on my first home, and I borrowed a small personal loan for the remainder of it. Now, it was a foreclosed house. It wasn't great. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine, and I loved it. So out of all the jobs that I did, I really loved landscaping the most. And though I didn't really get paid very much at doing that job, like $11 an hour, $12 an hour maybe, like I loved the work more. The reason why I didn't stick with the ADA job is there was a lot of downtime, and I'm not a drinker, I'm not a smoker, I'm not a partier. So in the downtime, I was really bored, and I was like, man, if I was just like working for myself, doing landscaping, like that would be fun. I would really enjoy that. I miss that kind of work. So when I came home from those jobs, I worked landscaping, and I just kept finding the love for it more and more. And just the materials seemed to just, I don't know, I gravitated to them. Like, they worked well out of my hands. My hands produced beautiful product. I couldn't stay away from it. So as much as like some people would do a job because it makes a lot of money, I do stuff because I love it. And I love the process. I love the build. I love to know about it. And that's really what drew me into it over anything else. I made a little mistake though. I told one of my friends at the landscaping company I worked for that I would like to start my own business one day. And because I was the better guy on this cruise, they weren't great businesses that I worked for. They weren't really efficient, and it was just about getting the work done, but I was that guy. And I was tired of people using me in that way to just get the work done and make a lot of money off my back. And so I decided, by telling my friend this, he played off of that string of I didn't want to, as many millennials kind of throw this phrase around, is I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to work for myself. I want to be my own boss. And he really played off of that string. And I didn't really realize it, but I loved the work more. I wanted to do the work more than I wanted to be the boss in reality. But he played off of that string, that heartstring, really, really well. And he talked my ear off about we should go into business together and you should do the work and I will do the selling and I'll do the paperwork and we'll split it 50-50 and it'll be great. We'll make so much money you won't even know. Like all this money that the other guy we're working for makes, we'll make that and more. And he played off of that so well, and I was so eager to try it. And I was like, well, someone else can take care of the back end of the business. I'll do the work. I do it now anyway, so what's the difference? Let's do it. But that was probably the biggest mistake I've probably ever made in my life. Up until this point, life has actually been pretty easy. Like, I'm living in my own home by myself, paying the bills every month, have a little bit of money left over, and I can literally do whatever I want because I've made good decisions with my money and I've made good decisions with my finances. I guess that's the same thing, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So I take some cash money that I have saved up. I have several trucks that at this point I'm just buying old trucks to have them, and I'm fixing each one, and they're not really meant to work, but I use them for work. So we take my 2 crappy trucks and we start this business, and what cash money I have to start it. So we take my cash money and we start this business. And we sign the paperwork together, and here's where I went wrong. And I see it now, and I'm like, how could I have just let that happen? My friend filed the paperwork by himself for the LLC with just his name on it and sent it in. Therefore, that business had nothing to do with me. But yet, I worked 8 months thinking that I was a 50% owner of this business. And this guy, he kept me trapped there for that 8 months because everybody could see it that it wasn't going well. People from the outside looking in. And he wasn't a good salesman. He wasn't good with finances. Obviously, this is what should have been my key: is I lived by myself. He lived in his mom's attic or upstairs, whatever you want to call it. And that should have been a really good sign to me. And he was 40 years old. Now I'm 22. Should have been a big sign. Like, if you're listening to the story, like, I just want you to hear, I should have seen that. I don't know how I didn't see it. Anyway, so this guy wasn't a good salesman. He wasn't a good worker. He wasn't good at anything. He would lie to his customers. He would lie to me. He would lie to our employees. And you know what they say about birds of a feather? They stick together. Well, you treat everybody like that, you're going to get customers like that. And we had a lot of trouble with customers. And he was underquoting jobs so much, there wasn't any money in it. There wasn't any money at all in it. It wasn't paying the bills. I don't know how I even survived. I didn't really survive during that time. Let's put it this way. I could make, on an average month, on a slow month, working for people for $10, $11 an hour, I could make $2,000, $2,500 at minimum and pay my bills and have a couple $100 left over at the end of the month. And then other times I could make $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 a month, depending on what I was doing. And that's a lot of money. And I spent it well, and I spent it wisely. But you go from all of that to making $200 or $300 sometimes a month, You have got to be kidding me. Like, we would make money, but I'd have to put it back into the business for materials and whatnot. And so there were some months I only made $200 or $300 a month for that first couple of months. And here's a really poor business model to live by. Is his goal was to quote things cheap so we could get the job, and then when we get referrals or more work from that customer, we'll jack our price up and it'll be up where everybody else should be. Well, here's the problem with that. Customers that are finding the lowest person they can, they are not going to pay that. When you go to bump your price up next time, they'll find somebody else because you're way too expensive. So if you are out there and you're starting a business and you think that you have to just do what it takes to get the jobs, don't. Charge what they should be. Charge more than you think. Know that it's going to take twice as long as you think. Just all that kind of stuff. Like I can do a whole nother series on that, but we'll leave that for later. But anyway, this guy, he wasn't a customer, this friend of mine ended up taking that business from me. And when I really found out about it was that company went to get sued. The guy that I was doing the work for, I'd made a couple mistakes on the property, and I'm human, and I overlooked a few things, and I volunteered to fix them for him, but he didn't want it. He called me up at 1 o'clock in the morning and told me he was going to sue me for everything I owned. And he was going to take that business and just destroy it. Now, I'm already not paying my bills. I'm already barely hanging on to the things that I have. And when someone told me that they're going to take everything I own, I'm like, I don't own anything anymore. Like, that's scary that you want to take the rest that I have. Somehow, the next day, I woke up and I was like, man, this is never happening to me again. This is stupid. Why am I here? That's the day I found out that business didn't belong to me anymore. That it hadn't belonged to me in the first place. I had spent 16 hours a day working for this business, thinking it was mine. That every blood, every tear, all the sweat, all the blood, all of that was for nothing. My hard-earned $10,000 or so that I put into that business, I never got back out of it. It wasn't mine. And you know what? I didn't have much, and then I really didn't have anything. And that is the lowest point I've ever had in my life. People calling me looking for money, and I've got nothing. And what reputation I did have is being dragged through the dirt so hard and fast that I don't know that I'm ever going to recover. My only thing to do from here really is to go up. I mean, it could get worse, but the only direction that I wanted to go was up. And I had no money, and I didn't know that I wanted to run a business anymore because my friend told me that I was not good at business. He told me I didn't know how to sell. He told me that I would never be anything more than just a laborer. And that goes and sticks with my dyslexia. Like, people had told me that I couldn't and wouldn't achieve if I couldn't be like everybody else. And so I just thought I was kind of stuck like that. So what did I do? I went back to work for my old boss. But he had a great conversation with me and ended up helping me out a lot because of this. He asked me, do you want to work just an average job? If you work for me or another landscaping business, if you like the work, would you be happy doing that? I'm like, I mean, yeah, I guess if it pays the bills. And he's like, but would you rather do it for yourself? That was the whole point of it initially, right? And I was like, yeah, He's like, then you're going to be more happy working for yourself, and it's going to pay off in the long run tenfold. And I was like, but I don't want to run a business if it's like this. If every customer is this terrible. He's like, let me stop you right there. That guy didn't know how to run a business. Running a business is actually fairly easy. He didn't know. He had terrible customers, and he was a lousy businessman. And I can help you. I'll give you the jobs I don't want, and I'll help you build your name. And if you want to do this for real for yourself, it's a lot easier than he made it out to be. What else do I have to do but try it and see if it's as he says? So I start my own business as Triple Sticks Landscaping, and I work for my old boss during the day, and after work he loans me his truck, and I go and do odd jobs that he doesn't want. And when they were jobs that he didn't want, they were jobs that I don't want either. But I did it. I did crappy irrigation repairs. I did planting jobs he didn't want. I did tree trimming jobs he didn't want. I did shrubs and just stuff like that. Stuff that I didn't really want to do. I didn't have a passion for. But you know what? It made a little extra money. It helped start working to get me out of debt, and it put my foot in the right direction of working with customers and building a name. And it was still hard though, because I took a lot of ways that we ran that other business and that I had no idea was no way you should have run a business. So I was very timid and very shy with customers. I didn't know how to charge. I didn't know how to do anything. So it was actually quite hard, and I found myself not taking the advice of my boss. And you need to charge more. Like, you don't need to be doing that for that much. You need to charge a lot more. But I was afraid, because at this point I'm desperate. I have to have money. I have so many people looking for money. It's not even funny. My trucks are breaking down like all the time. I put one in the shop, the other one breaks down, and then I'm out. I don't have a truck. I can't even get to work. I'm borrowing a truck to get to work. Like, I accumulated so much debt in an 8-month period of time. I don't know how I paid it off. I really don't. I had like $9,000 in debt just from, borrowing money for this and borrowing money for that. And when we finish this job, we'll pay back this, and just stuff like that. And it was amazing how when you're that broke, basically, that you'll just do anything for a couple $100 to pay the minimum payments on everything, just to keep people off your back. But you're desperate that that's what you have to do. The reason I was so desperate to make money is in the summer of 2017, which I walked away from my business that I thought I co-owned. I walked away from that in May, and I was supposed to get married in June. So I had about 2 months to get my stuff put back together and start a life with my new wife. And up until this point, I'd always been stable. I'd always been like that model guy, and then all of a sudden, like, I wasn't. Like, I was desperate to get out of that situation. So we got married, and you know what? It was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. We had dated a long time, so we knew each other really well. And when we got married, we didn't have much of a honeymoon, but when we came back, she came to work with me. And she was by my side as much as she could be. She still had a semester of school left that we had to pay for. So she knew that if we were going to make this work, she was going to be there to help make it work. It wasn't just it wasn't just up to me. And if she wanted to spend time with me, sometimes she just had to work with me. I mean, we did everything by hand, and I was quoting things so cheap because I was just scared and desperate that if I didn't get the job, we'd be just, I don't know, we don't know what we'd be doing. So we were doing everything by hand, and my wife is a trooper, and she was right there with me. And we spread that same summer, we spread 100 yards of mulch, just me and her, with a couple of wheelbarrows, and she shoveled and I ran the wheelbarrows. And I mean, we've put the time into this together. And we've done a lot more hardscapes over the years. And she learned to lay brick. We did some fire brick a couple of times in some fireplaces and fire pits. And I've learned how to lay brick a long time ago. And it took me a long time to figure out and be proficient with it. And I showed her all my cool little tricks, and she picked it up in like 20 minutes. And I was like, "This right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." But we did everything together. And what really grew us together is not only did we work together, but we were broke together. We were eating ramen noodles together. But we were also enjoying the time together. We both put the hard work in to make things work. And when it did, and even if it was there were times where we had just a couple dollars in our account, but it worked out. And we didn't go in the negatives, and we got things done just in time. And that is what grew us together in that first couple years of marriage. And we still do things together to this day because of that same reason. We just love to work together. Obviously, we had to learn to run a business and run it well and be profitable. And that took a lot of time. We've been running this business for 4 years now, and we had to learn a lot of things the hard way. Mostly, the first things that I learned was you have to do some kind of advertising if you want to grow a business quickly. We used, probably in our first year, we started using Home Advisor, and we still use that, not as much. We're trying to do more. We've been in business long enough that we are just trying to do more of like a referral base and a generic social media and just more generic advertising than having to pay for a lead. I am paying for advertising, but I'm not paying per lead. So with Home Advisor, we had to pay a lot of money just to get the work we actually wanted to do. And I can spend that same amount of money and touch a lot more people, and so we're taking that route. The other growth that we've learned, and it took a lot of time because I had always been taught not to buy new trucks. That's why I had old things and they just broke down and they were useless. And so one of the things we found for running our business is that borrowing money for a business isn't a bad thing. And so we borrowed money for a truck. If I really understood it a little better, I would have bought a 2-year-old truck rather than a brand new truck. But we do have a warranty. We do have good things with this truck. We just have a lot of negative equity in it. So you do have to have tools to be able to go and get the work done quickly. And I'm not against, if I go back and do it over again, I would borrow the money and just get the equipment I needed right off instead of doing things by hand. So we did everything by hand for probably the first 2 years of this business. And even the 3rd year, we did a lot of stuff by hand still, or rented in stuff. We bought a little piece of equipment, and it was really a piece of garbage. And so we still don't have to do a lot of things by hand. So the piece of equipment we had didn't work great, So we would just hire guys and get stuff done. And now, wasn't the best way of doing it. A lot of times I would just pay for day laborers or whatever. Not the best way to run a business either. And so, poor choices there were made, and we should have done it differently. But the piece of equipment I bought was a Ditch Witch SK350, and my old boss had one, and I thought it was a great machine. I could drive it well, I could operate it well, and I even have some of those videos that I made with that machine at the very start of my channel. Like, they're not great videos, but I'm glad I put them out there. It was a hard thing to learn efficiency, though, because we'd done everything by hand, and everything takes 3 times as long if you do it by hand. But the company I worked for was that way. It would rather throw a lot of people at something than rent a machine or use the machine that we had. So, naturally, I just followed in that same mindset, and that was a poor choice. I should have bought the equipment long before that. So we worked really hard one summer and bought that Ditch Witch, and it broke down all the time, and that was a poor choice. If I could go back and do it again, now knowing what I would know, I would have gone and bought a dump trailer and financed a piece of equipment with the same amount of money that I spent on that little Ditch Witch. And it's just a lot of things like that we've learned. I've learned so much in the last 4 years running this business that it would be hard to put it into. It'd be really hard to put it into words, and something that someone's gonna want to listen to the whole thing. So let me try to keep it even a little bit more brief for you. The biggest thing, and there's other YouTubers out there, Stan Genetic, Keith Kelfis, Brian's Lawn Maintenance, all of them, there's one thing they all say, and it's know your worth and charge for it. I've gotten to the point in our business now where I have all the tools that I need to go in and get jobs done quickly and efficiently. And I'm going to charge to do so. I made the mistake of not charging enough of, let's say, a $20,000 retaining wall. I wanted the work so bad. I wanted to be able to say that I could do that I would take a $20,000 job and do it for $12,000 or $13,000. Which really all that does is that makes it where I don't make anything on the job. And we did a bunch of stuff like that. So, no offense, but if you go to a customer and they're like, I had another guy come and look at this, and he was way too expensive. He said this was going to be 20 grand. You need to look that customer dead in the face and say, then I'm not the guy for you, because if it's going to be done properly, it's going to be 20 grand. And so, if I had learned that a long time ago, it would have saved me a lot of heartache. One of the things I've really learned a lot this year is, again, having equipment to get the job done. Be efficient. The jobs I make the most money on are the jobs I'm there 1 or 2 days, and that's the best money I make. So have the tools you need, have the trucks you need, have the equipment you need, and charge well for it. I charge $1,000 a day right now for all my labor, and I should have been doing it years ago. I charge $1,000 a day plus material. This makes it where anything you do, you go out and you make $1,000 a day. Don't think, like I thought for the longest time, man, people are not going to pay that, but they will. When you set yourself in a class above everybody else, and you are kind and you are respectable to your customers, and I've been really professional and gotten in and out of job sites, but I haven't made relationships with customers as well. But I found if you make a relationship with a customer, you do a good job and fast, they're going to refer you to all their friends. They're going to think the world of you, and they'll call you back. So you need to learn that and try it yourself. And don't be afraid. If someone says no, it takes a little bit. If people say no, well, you keep trying, and you take a few of those jobs that pay a little bit less. But if you're making $300 a day in your business, you're not making any money. And I can tell you that because my back hurts. At 27 years old, my back and shoulders hurt from doing things by hand for years. You're not going to get anywhere charging $300 a day. It doesn't matter how much work you have or how much you do, you won't get anywhere like that. Doctors and lawyers get paid $100 an hour for their time. You should get paid $100 an hour for your body and your time and your knowledge. If you know this industry, you know what you're doing, and you charge for it, there is nothing wrong with that. So I'll wrap this story up by letting you know this. It doesn't matter what circumstances life throws at you, if you are willing to persevere and strive to overcome those circumstances, it's gonna be hard, but you can make it out. Alright, so that's my story to hear, and I just kind of want to point you to my future and what I want to do here. First things first, I want to say this. I made it through a lot of hardships because I believe in a God and trust in a God that takes care of me. Every single one of those hard points, I was on my knees, just praying that He'd take me out of it. And He did. And He's got me to the point where I am today, where I'm happy, I'm doing the work I want to do. He's given me the equipment I need, everything. And I just want to thank Him for that. And moving forward in my business, I want to treat all my customers well, with kindness, and when charge enough, that way if they call me back, I have no problem going over there, fixing whatever issue it may be. So I don't plan to be rich. I don't plan to make tons of money, but I'm not a cheap contractor anymore. And I probably won't do as many retaining walls this year because of that, but I'm okay with that. Retaining walls and pavers and whatnot, because my heart is there, but a lot of times people don't want to pay for it. And I don't want to do something that I can't do 100% if I'm going to be the cheapest contractor. So this next year, or the future, growing, what I want to do is the drainage, because I'm more set up for that. And I'll take any job that comes along that I can use my equipment for and charge well for. So it leaves a couple other things. And I have a good team around me these days, and that's what helps me be successful. I have Nathan, who films and edits for me. I personally took this one on because who else is going to tell my story better than me? And it was really fun to do. So no offense to Nathan, but I just want to do it myself. And then I have my wife. She helps me on the back end of my business and helps me see where my profits are, my losses are, time management, stuff like that. She really helps with that. And then just keeping the books. And I have another person you guys don't see. I have someone that works for me. Her name is Kristen, and she just answers the phone for me. She does a lot of right now we're still using Home Advisor pretty heavily. We're looking to phase that out in the next year, but she makes that initial contact and really makes it where I don't have to deal with those customers. There's a lot of duds in that process, so she eliminates that and gets it where I just can have a meeting with somebody and figure out if they want to do the work or not. So thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you to my wonderful wife, Kaylee. And then there's one other person. His name is Ben with True South Landscaping. He runs another small landscaping business out of the area, and I use him as a subcontractor. And I help him with projects, and he helps me, and he helps us really blow through some work sometimes. So I have a great team, and I couldn't do it without this team, and I couldn't do it without the tools that I have. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and I hope that you learned something. I hope that my story has a little bit of help for you guys. And if I could sum it up with two things: if you're starting your own business, this is going to be a lot of work, absolutely all day long. But the other thing I want you to take away is invest in your business. Go ahead, borrow the money, buy the equipment you need, save yourself the heartache of wondering should I or shouldn't I. I would say do it. Take that leap, take that risk, and you'll never look back. Now, this is the very end. I just want to show you guys some of the finished products, some of my favorite finished products, or paver projects, and retaining walls, stuff like that we've done over the last couple of years. We've done a ton of them, but these are my favorites, and I hope you enjoy.